the part of the brain that creates wants and desires, it works separate and independent of the part that actually allows us to act on that desire. This is extremely important. So the part
Can
of
you
the
repeat
brain,
that? Yeah, let's
yeah.
repeat that one more time.
So the part of the brain that creates desires works independent of the part that allows us to act on that desire. So we
Okay.
have one part of our mind that's creating wants, and it's essentially creating endless wants, one after another, at a pace faster than any one person can achieve.
Hmm.
And that's because this part of the brain, its job isn't to check if the want is achievable or achievable for you. It's simply to create wants.
Okay.
And I know many of us listening right now have this experience where they have all these wants and desires and they don't have time for it because, well, this part of the brain isn't checking if you have the time or the energy or the resources. It simply creates wants. It's like an on off switch. But then we have another part of the brain that gives a green light on that want. So this is the part that checks to see if you have the time, energy, resources, if it'll be safe, it'll be fulfilling, and all of that. And if this part doesn't give the green light, we can't act. Our wants and resistance are one and the same. It's the same fabric. So when our wants grow, so does our resistance. And our resistance growing makes our want grow even more. And that in turn makes our resistance grow even further. And very quickly, this becomes this feedback loop where now we want this thing really bad and can't have it really bad. And I know for a fact, you likely, as well as your listeners, have experienced moments where you wanted something really bad and things weren't moving for you. But then as soon as you let it go, things began to fall into place.
Mm.
And it's usually because our want created an equal amount of resistance and it created that stuckness.
Mm.
And another challenge of wants that a lot of people experience is what I call a conflicting want. This is where a person wants two things that are conflicting. And it's really important. So, like I said, the part of the brain that creates wants is unrestrained. So it doesn't check to see if a want it's creating conflicts with another want. It simply creates wants. So a person can have two wants that are conflicting, meaning having one requires giving up the other.
Mm.
Like the nature of the universe, you can't have both. And I'll give a couple examples so you and your listeners can understand what I mean. Some people want to find that special someone, but at the same time date. So by the nature of dating, you can't have that one person because you want to date. By the nature of having one person, you can't be with multiple people. But then there's that desire for both. And then the same thing with a lot of times people want a prestigious job or income, but free time.
Hmm.
Well, for the most part, having a prestigious job means you got to put time into the work. But if you're also wanting free time, there's a conflict there. Like you can't have free time and still have a job. Doesn't make sense. But the brain can still create a want for that. And so in these instances, it really helps to pick one and let go of the other. In
Hmm.
fact, it's really important to pick one and let go of the other because most people who chase both usually end up achieving neither. And if they do achieve both, they can't go deep or they don't find it as fulfilling. So this should help your listeners understand what I mean by the challenges our own wants create. So we have the overactive want, we have the strong want, we have the conflicting want. And again, there's more aspects of the want. If you like, we can talk more about it, but I don't want to keep rambling. So
No, that was excellent. The conflicting want makes a lot of sense to me. I want to be shredded and I want to eat pizza. It's
yes.
like, okay, well, that's challenging. Now, I
Yeah.
guess on that one, and then I'd like to go back to your middle one, the strong want. What do you think about these kind of individuals who sell out completely for those wants? Um, because I kind of think maybe you don't have to do it like that. Like Kobe Bryant, right? Like that's the famous story, the Mamba mentality, right? But
And can you tell me what you mean by the mama mentality, like
all
his
right,
work
so
ethic?
yeah, so like his work ethic, but also just kind of like what I have to do is more important than my teammates. I'm kind of an asshole. I'm difficult like with my teammates. I accept, no slack from them. I got the killer instinct. I need that. I want that. I shun all other things in my life. which famously after Kobe died, he became a pretty good entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Kind of applying maybe that same mentality, but like, is it necessary to take it to that level to be successful? Because you can look at someone like LeBron or Steph Curry, and they don't seem to have done it in that way. It's
Yeah.
like the story about the three great tennis players, Rafa, Djokovic, and Federer, right? Federer's on the court before the game, or on the court before match, and he's laughing, he's joking, he's hitting trick shots, he's flirting with the ball girls, and then Federer gets on the court and he's all intense. He's like,
Yeah.
"Rah, rah," and then Djokovic gets on the court and he's like robotic, just like hit the shots, hit the
Yeah.
shots, hit the shots. So, right, there's different ways of doing it.
Yeah.
Um,
I
so I
love it.
guess, I just kind of wonder, do we have to sell out for our goals? Because the title of my podcast is Entrepreneur Among Other Things, right?
Yeah.
Like, I have other interests in life. I don't identify with being an entrepreneur exclusively and solely. So,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on something like that?
This is a fantastic question, and a question I haven't received yet, and a question that is going to be extremely important to understand. And in a way, we could even bring in the two famous soccer players,
Yep.
Messi
Messi and
and
Ronaldo.
Ronaldo. Very different approach to their game, but both highly successful. And I want to start by saying there's a million ways to make $1 million. There isn't just one way. There's actually a lot of ways. And it could feel like when we see somebody successful or at the echelon of success, thinking that's what we need to do to get success because that's what he's doing and he has it. But there isn't just one approach. And to go even deeper is you want to use approach that works within your resistance. Meaning we're going to have a lot of things that hold us back. There's a lot of challenges our own mind and body create. And it's going to be important to work around those challenges. So a level of resistance one person might have, another person might not. So for example, I have historically had an overactive wanting mechanism. My mind got stimulated by all the different things to do, which is why I've traveled to over 100 countries, written over a dozen books, and done all sorts of activities like skydiving, scuba diving, rock climbing, all that stuff, because my brain was stimulated by all the different things to do, like I said. And although this created a lot of great experiences, I couldn't move forward in a single direction. And I realized if I wanted to accomplish anything in life, I had to get a handle on my wanting mechanism. And so for me, what was really important is to cut out as many triggers and stimuli as possible. So for me, I went as far as that meant cutting out television, social media, YouTube, internet. I even cut out personal development. I know you asked me if I had read this person's book. It might be shocking, but I don't read too much people's content because it actually stimulates me, overly stimulates me, to the point where I've even cut out a lot of people in my life and created a bubble that contains as much distracting stimuli as possible. Now, this is something that I need to do because of the challenge of my wanting mechanism. This may not work for a lot of other people because they're not overly stimulated and they're not easily distracted by distractions in their environment or by other people. But because I am, this is the extent that I had to go. And so when we look at examples like Kobe Bryant and the tennis players and even the soccer players, it's what they needed to get the success they want. When you look at a guy like Messi, I think he has a very little inner activity that is distracting. I don't think he has a lot of thoughts in his head of this isn't going to work. I can't do this. I have to be better. I have to prove myself and blah, blah, blah. He has none of that. So he doesn't have to work on pushing through those things and he can kind of show up the way he does. When you got Ronaldo, I'm not saying I know what's going on in his head, but just from his lifestyle, you could say that he needs to impress. He needs to feel superior. He needs to be the best. And then, so he does the things that's going to make him feel that way. And so, again, there's a million ways to make $1 million. So we don't have to do what one successful person is doing to get that success. There's actually different approaches, and not just normal success, even echelons of success. And it all really comes down to what is going on for us internally, and what we need to do to manage it to be able to move forward. Another good example could be some people tend to be a lot more insecure inside. They have a lot of feelings of undeserving, I'm not enough. And that feeling creates this push. It's like this internal push that they can't even control that makes them need to prove themselves, make them feel like they are enough. So they have to do a lot of stuff just so that internal part can feel like they're enough, to show up in a way where another person doesn't have to do any of those things. I hope that kind of gives a better or clearer picture.
Yeah. So kind of what I took from that is that someone like Kobe Bryant, his dual wants may not have been what we would expect within ourselves, right? Like
Yes.
his dual wants, if it was Alex, would be like, I want to spend time with my friends and family and relax, and I want to be really good at basketball. But for him, he may not have had that want for like friends, family,
Yeah.
relaxation time. His
Yeah.
want might have been, just exclusively solely basketball. Like, I want to be the best and I want to win. And it's like,
Yeah.
how do these dual wants play together? So
Yeah.
that does make sense that it's more natural to him. He kind of built a career that was natural to him.
Yeah.
Whereas someone like Steph Curry, it may not have ever been like a decision mechanism for him to be like, do I want to be great at basketball or be like a great family person? That was maybe an easier decision for him.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And you've seen the different quadrants that explain behaviors in different ways. There's what is it? Anyways, so I have my own quadrant,
Okay.
and there's the a person can have a high want and low resistance.
Okay.
One quadrant, a person can have a high want and high resistance. A person can have a low want and low resistance, and a person can have a low want and high resistance. So when you see the people with the echelon of success, high want, low resistance.
Right.
So they have a lot of drive and they don't have a lot of stuff holding them back. So when they think about doing something, they can just do it. When you see the people, then there's people with high want and high resistance. There are people who want that level of success, but they have so much resistance that gets in the way. It creates a lot of challenges. In fact, I would even go as far as to say, when you look at the people who have a lot of these disorders, eating disorders and addictions and things of that nature, I think it's a manifestation that they have the strong want, but the resistance is so strong that to keep them from going after that want, it creates all these unhealthy patterns and destructive behaviors to keep them from achieving that want. Then you have the low want and low resistance. This is a person who doesn't have a lot of strong burning desires to go out and do things. And they don't have a lot of resistance either. So when they do want to do something, it's pretty easy. These guys are the ones who are truly happy in life. They're just chill because, and
Yeah.
and women love them because when women are around them, they don't have this high want that creates this uncomfortableness feeling for them. And because they have low resistance, if a woman does want to progress with a guy, he doesn't have to go through all this inner turmoil. So, like, things are just always easy. And a great analogy for this is Einstein's theory of relativity. One of Einstein's theories, the theory of special relativity, says that time and space are not separate. So the three dimensions of space, north, south, up, down, and east, west, as well as time, they're actually one and the same. It's the same fabric. In fact, scientists and physicists refer to it as space-time. And in many ways, our wants and resistance are one and the same. It's the same fabric. So when our wants grow, so does our resistance. And our resistance growing makes our want grow even more. And that in turn makes our resistance grow even further. And very quickly, this becomes this feedback loop where now we want this thing really bad and can't have it really bad. And I know for a fact, you likely, as well as your listeners, have experienced moments where you wanted something really bad and things weren't moving for you. But then as soon as you let it go, things began to fall into place. And it's usually because our want created an equal amount of resistance and it created that stuckness.